In southern Michigan, over the last 40 years, the deer population has increased by about 5 times, from 200,000 to 1 million deer.
This week in Lansing, a group of Republicans tried to do something about the deer numbers being high in the state. They introduced House Bill 4445. It's sponsored by Representative Jennifer Wartz. All it does is overturn a baiting ban that's been in place since 2008. It would allow hunters to actually use bait, to hunt deer. Now, you'd think the Department of Natural Resources, the DNR, would be thrilled about this. They're facing a perfect storm, according to the Michigan Farm Bureau. They've had mild winters and abundant food. Meanwhile, the number of hunters is plummeting. License sales are down about 32% since 1995. In the 1990s, Michigan hunters were taking about 600,000 deer a year. By 2024, that number crashed to just over 373,000. But the experts tell us that we need to remove about 800,000 deer every single year just to keep the population steady. We aren't even hitting half of that. So how's the DNR's response? Did they show up to the hearing to offer solutions? No.
Lastly, I'd like to highlight that DNR chose not to attend today. I wish they would have been here to present their side of the case to the committee. As you can see, they did send written testimony. They claim that this bill would undermine the authority of NRC to regulate baiting.
They didn't even send a person. They sent a letter. They said that they're concerned that the legislature was stepping on the toes of the Natural Resources Commission, the NRC. And they're more worried about their own administrative authority than the fact that the state is being overrun by a deer herd. And the cost of this management is staggering. Representative Wartz talked about her district in Hillsdale. She looks outside of her window last Christmas and saw 20, 30, maybe even 40 deer in a single herd. They aren't just a wildlife feature anymore. They are, in her words, the most expensive farm pest in the state. Farmers watch their crops getting hammered, and they're spending a fortune on chemicals, repellents, just to survive.
They apply hinder on 160 acres of soybeans. The deer deterrent costs them $41 per gallon to cover the soybean field. It costs the Kaisers roughly $21 per acre in application. At one of their 24-acre soybean fields, they've watched helplessly as their 70-bushel yields of soybeans drop to 15 to 20 bushels an acre, costing them thousands of dollars in revenue that they simply cannot afford to lose.
And it's not just the farmers, it's you. It's anyone with a car. Between 2012 and 2023, Michigan averaged about 62,000 deer vehicle collisions every single year. And if you do the math, the Michigan Department of Insurance and Financial Services has, at 5,000 per collision, that's more than $3 billion in damages. Now, the experts will tell you that this is about the science. They'll talk about chronic waste disease or CWD, and they'll say that a bait pile, a concentrated pile of feed, becomes a touch point for disease because it has saliva. Dr. Jared Bellant, a wildlife ecologist from Michigan State, he admitted the state doesn't even have scientifically credible estimates of how many deer we actually have out there. But he still defended the ban nonetheless. He said baiting is different from food plots because of contact rates. So let me get this straight. If you plant a field of clover for the deer, that's for science. But if you put that same clover into a pile, that's a disease touch point. It's the same deer in the same woods eating the same food. But one is legal and the other one makes you a criminal. So tell me your thoughts on this. Do you think that we should bring baiting back to the Lower Peninsula? Representative Dave Preston asked one question everyone was thinking. Is the DNR actually properly managing the herd? He pointed out that in the Upper Peninsula, where baiting is actually legal, the population is actually declining. So if baiting is so dangerous, why is the herd struggling where it's allowed, but exploding in areas where it's banned?
And so that'll vary. I could ask each of you individually in this room what that would look like, and we'd get a slightly different answer because it's so complicated.
We're not the experts. You are, so.
But right, and so the thing about science is to talk about the possible outcomes of value-based decisions. And so without knowing what that value is and what the associated goal would be, it's difficult to say, how there's I don't have a target to aim for to see how this would be in response to what the specific question was.
So in your mind, it's a possibility that Lower Michigan's deer population is great right now?
It's increased, absolutely.
Is it where it should stay?
That's a value-based in
Okay.
that. That's values.
Thank you.
You bet.
Value-based. That might be terms for, I don't want to admit that the policy isn't working. Meanwhile, people like Ted Nugent are telling the state to get the hell out of our way. And he's right. If the goal is to protect crops, save lives on the road, and manage a healthy herd, why are we making it harder for people to actually do the work? If they were going to make any amendments to this bill, talking about the quantity of how much bait you could put out, what would be your suggestion of what that quantity should be? The DNR says that the NRC has exclusive authority. They point to Proposal G from 1996. They want to protect their power, but while they protect their power, the herds are growing. The crashes are increasing and the farmers are suffering. And that leads us to right where we are now. This past Tuesday, December 17th, the same committee met again. And despite the handwriting from the experts and the angry letters from the DNR, common sense actually managed to win this round. The House Natural Resources and Tourism Committee officially voted to advance House Bill 4445. And they didn't just pass it, they reported it without amendment. They didn't water it down, they didn't add more red tape or arbitrary limits to how much corn you can put out in a bucket. They simply sent the bill exactly as is written straight to the full House for a second reading. It's a massive step, and that means that people in Lansing are finally listening to the farmers losing their crops and to the families tired of dodging the 62,000 vehicle collisions that happen every single year. So tell me your thoughts. Are you happy that this bill is actually moving forward? We'll be watching the House floor to see if the rest of the legislation has the same courage to move this forward. Let me know your thoughts on this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.